Do I believe that horror movies influence and affect the audience? That is a loaded question.
Mainstream horror has been entertaining and scaring people for over 200 years, and we have witnessed many instant classics such as Psycho, The Shining, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, and many more. Us, the viewers, love these movies and watch them for their scary characters and for the jump scares. However, I've always wondered if these horror movies have had an impact on the audience, as over time there's been reports that horror films have influenced the public to cause terror or certain crimes to other people. My name is Ryan Hubbard, and I'll be investigating to see if horror movies influence the actions of the audience.
My favourite horror film is Halloween, John Carpenter's original movie from 1978. It was one of the first horror movies I watched when I was younger. It scarred me for life. I go back and watch it every year, every Halloween. I absolutely love it. I don't think it's been equalled. I don't think it's ever been topped.
Favourite horror film? Scream. I like Scream because it's sort of just, it's not just a horror film, it's a horror comedy, it's like a thriller, and it changed the generation of horror.
So my favourite horror film is The Conjuring 2. What I like most about this is the style it's done and how, even though it's supernatural, sort of gets the jump scares a lot better than what some horror films do.
I don't like horror films that rely on jump scares. I think it just makes it feel a bit too fake. It's making horror films all feel the same. It's just a particular trope I don't really like. I hate when they do remakes, obviously, of old classics and sort of forget what made the original film so important.
I like horror movies by and large in general. I think the ones that don't really click with me would be things like The Human Centipede or something like that, where it's just shock value and maybe kind of gross out as opposed to being a horror movie.
My favourite horror film franchise is the Halloween series, which features serial killer Michael Myers, The Shape. I like this the most because he just kills without a reason, because he's pure evil. I also love the Halloween theme music as it stands out, it catches your attention, it's iconic, and it's very creepy. So could someone who watched these horror movies be inspired by the villains? We saw a global example of this back in 2016 when the remake of Stephen King's It came out, and lots of people dressed up as killer clowns like the clown Pennywise in the film. People walked around in public, some were dressing up for fun, however some people did it to cause terror on people. As it was in the months of October and November, people could get away with this as it's a tradition to dress up during the Halloween season. But when people are doing it to cause terror and upset people, there's always a line, and it has been crossed.
My opinion on that scandal, I think it was very bizarre. I think it's very strange why people would want to do that. They might say it was for fun, but really if you're doing that, I mean, you are trying to terrorize people in a way, and I don't know why you'd want to do that.
When it comes to that sort of 2016 clown scandal, it's sort of, I think the problem was more how it was handled by sort of authorities trying to ban people going out as clowns, even on Halloween. It will make people do it more, and by banning something you've sort of missed the point. Now I get that people were being violent in the clown and they were intentionally trying to scare people. Most people were doing it as a joke, as a bit of fun. The problem is when they do it when they're trying to scare like children, then it gets a bit more of a problem.
Funny thing to do, but really it was like sort of giving people a bit of worry because everyone thought it could like lead to something bigger than what it actually meant to be. At the time, I just knew hopefully it just wouldn't be. I didn't think it would be that much. I think it was just being kept as a small thing, but people escalated it to the way it was.
It shouldn't be a crime. It really shouldn't be a crime. But I think the people who are being violent about it, it's not influenced by the craze of clowns. These aren't good people. If it happened again, it would again be little scares from some people, and then there'd be the odd couple who take it too far or react to the craze. It shouldn't be outlawed, and I think they've learned enough that it won't happen again though. So I think this will stay gone.
Depends. If that happens again, should it be allowed slide or should the police get involved? I think that really depends. Like if it's happening at Halloween, people are just dressed up as clowns, yeah, sure, that's fine. But if they're going out of their way to scare people, I don't think that's cool. I think the police should be informed of it at the very least, yeah. Do I believe that horror movies influence and affect the audience? That is a loaded question.
No. I think there's no possible way that a horror film can influence someone to do such horrible things. That comes from things going on at home, things going on mentally. There's no way that a horror film on its own does that to someone. I get that maybe people can be inspired by what happens in horror films, and that is something that, yeah, it can happen, and it's horrible to think. But to think that horror films actually influence someone to do horrible things is just wrong. In the same ways that people are influenced from bad parents, from bad times at school, but you don't see anyone trying to ban parents or ban school. I understand that horror films can influence especially children to do horrible things, and you don't want to introduce them to it early. That's why they're given 15s and 18s for a more mature audience. It's just, you can't think that horror films make people do these things, because it's simply not true.
I think that's a question people are going to be debating for years to come, and they already are. It's the same with violence in movies. I think that certain people who have committed horrible, despicable crimes have blamed it on horror movies. People also blame it on video games, music as well at times. I think that, it's so hard to speak for the people who commit those crimes. It's hard to say whether it was just that one movie set them off, or that one song, or that one video game, or if it was, a culmination of many different things building up in their life. So I don't think we'll ever really get the answer to that. I do think that, for sure there are age ratings on movies and on games and on music and things like that to warn the audience, and I think that should be adhered to. There's a censorship board out there, and the reason why they exist, I think, is to let the audience know of what they're getting in for in terms of the tone and the content. I think that the viewers need to be responsible when they watch these movies. They are made for entertainment's sake, but it's hard to tell how people are going to interpret that sort of thing. So it's a very tricky question to answer.